So today we are going to discuss about the domain naming system. We also call it as DNS. So the day I started giving the introduction to the Active Directory, I have mentioned that Active Directory and DNS both are integrated. Means without the DNS, Active Directory will not work. But without the Active Directory, DNS will work. So since I told you without the DNS, AD will never work. So now let us try to understand what is the importance of the DNS system or the domain naming system with respect to the Active Directory. Okay. So any idea about DNS? Have you ever heard DNS first? And what is the use of DNS? Okay. So the DNS means it is one of the service, the networking services we can call it as. Okay. So the DNS, the nature and the work of the DNS is okay. The DNS will always try to resolve a host name into IP address and IP address back to host name. Means whenever you are trying to browse any website, you will go to the browser and you will type the see you will go to the browser and you will type www.facebook.com. Correct na? See, how will this computer understand? Yes, when I say www.facebook.com, which IP address it should be going and talk? Because see, computers never understand the words, characters, strings, but computer will only understand zeros and ones or the numbers. Correct na? But we human beings, we are very much comfortable with the names. Correct. If you give 100 names, we can easily remember. But if you ask to remember 5 numbers, it is very difficult for us. Correct, right? So to come out of that difficulties, we have bought in a service called DNS. Okay, DNS is nothing but domain naming system. What it will do, it will remember the IP address on behalf of us. Now, it is easy to remember me www.facebook.com. But if you see the IP address of the facebook.com, you go to the command prompt to check the IP address of any website. You go to the command prompt and type a command called nslookup, name server lookup space facebook.com. If you enter, you see you are getting the name of the website is facebook.com, and the IP addresses you see here, there are two IP addresses. One is the IP version 6 which has got 128 bit, another one is IP version 4 which has got 8 32-bit and 4 octet. Correct na? See, even if you browse this 163.70.144.35, you can even browse the facebook.com. Let me close this facebook.com here. Okay, and let me put this IP address in the browser, 163.70.144.35. If you hit enter, see, it is now going and connecting to the facebook.com. See, you can see the Facebook is there. Why it is like this? Because computer will only understand the numbers, but we does not able to remember lot of numbers. That is the demerit of the human being. But humans are very much comfortable by remembering the names, but computer will only understand the numbers. We are able to understand and remember the names. So there is a challenge both for the computers as well as for the human beings. Then we have bought in a service called DNS in between human and the computer. So if you tell the DNS to remember, it will remember. So if you want to browse either using a name or a number, it is left to you. If you try to browse the applications or website by the name, so DNS will go and resolve that the IP address. How that is happening, I will show you today. Hope this is clear. How, what is DNS and why do we use DNS? Is that clear, guys? Can you hear me? Okay. So the same thing I have mentioned here. See, DNS means it is a protocol or a service. It will be used to resolve a fully qualified domain name into IP address or vice versa. Means if you try to give IP address, it will give the name. If you try to give name, it will give the IP address. See here, now I have mentioned nslookup facebook.com. Okay, if you take this IP address and again type this command nslookup and put the IP address. See, it says it is belongs to facebook.com. See, that is what the resolution means. If you try to browse IP address, it will get converted into name, or if you are trying to browse the name, it will get resolved into the IP address. So both, vice versa. Vice versa means both the side. Name to IP address back to name. It resolves, and that is the that is the responsibility of the, that is the functionality of the DNS. Now let us understand what happens when you try to browse www.facebook.com. Okay, so when you go to the browser here and type www.facebook.com, okay, now the website got open within fraction of seconds, with not even a second, fraction of seconds I am telling. So in that fraction of seconds, the resolution is completed with all these steps. See, when the client PC request stating that I need to browse www.facebook.com here, facebook.com, when you hit enter, the first and foremost, the query will go and check, is there any entry called facebook.com in the local host of the computer, in the local computer itself. In this computer itself, it will check, is there any entry called, is there any something, is there any documents which says what is facebook.com IP address, and where it will be there, it will be there in the DNS local computer host file. If you go to the run, if you type drivers here, there is a file called drivers. Okay, in that you have one thing called etc, and there you have a file called host. If you open that host file, there will be some entries. If you have to open that in the notepad, okay, there are some entries. See here, you can see 102.59.94.97 means if somebody browse this one, that will give the name of the website like this. Okay, like this, it will just come and check, is there any entry called like this and facebook.com. If it is there, it will pick up and give you the answer to you. If it is not available, then it will go and check in the DNS cache. You see here, it first go and check in the local host file of the client computer, the driver etc and host file. Okay, and then the DNS client cache. Where is the DNS client cache will be there? I'll show you. The DNS client cache will be there. You can see in the command prompt. Okay, if you type a command called ipconfig / display DNS, okay, if you have opened the website any time before, that will be stored in this cache. It will just come and see here, is there anything called facebook.com. okay, it will just, there are a lot of entries will be there. Okay, it will just pick up the entries from there and it will give it to you. Okay, this is called as DNS cache. Okay, first it will go and check in the host file, which is which will be there in the drivers etc host file. Okay, in the local DNS local computer itself, and then it will go and check in the local DNS cache. If the entry is not available for facebook.com or any other .com websites, okay, then the query will be forwarded to the preferred DNS server. See, you have noticed that when you give the IP address to a network interface card, if you go to ncpa.cpl, if you go to the ncpa.cpl, here you have given the IP addresses, preferred IP addresses. See, let me check here. If you go to properties of it, if you go to IPv4 and you see here preferred DNS server and alternate DNS server is there. So here if you mention, when we are building the domain controller, we used to give this DNS address here, or when you build a client computer also, you need to have this DNS address. So what happens, this is preferred and this is DNS. You can add n number of DNS servers if you have it in your home office. Okay, so you can close this. Let me close this. Then the query will be forwarded to the preferred DNS server. See, 4 places it will check for the resolution. First it will check in the local host file. If the entry is there, from there it will understand the IP address or the name and it will give it to you. If it is not available, then the query will be forwarded. Go and check in the DNS cache, the local client DNS cache. You can see that in the command prompt. If you type a command called ipconfig space display DNS, then in these 2 places also, if it is not available, then the request will go to the preferred DNS server. The client will ask the DNS server, hey you DNS, do you have an entry called facebook.com in your DNS? Then it will tell, it will check in the preferred DNS server. If it is not available in the preferred DNS server, it will tell that I don't have any entry called facebook.com, but I have a friend, I have a colleague who is also performing the DNS role. Can I forward this, or I will forward that? He will forward that query to this computer DNS server. Okay, then if the entry is available in the alternate DNS server, he will give, yes, I have an entry called facebook.com and the IP address is 1.2.3.4 for example. Then the preferred DNS server will understand the entry of the facebook.com and he will know the IP address of facebook.com from the alternate DNS server, like facebook.com is 1.2.3.4. Then the alternate DNS server will never directly give the entry to the client machine. He will give the information to the preferred DNS server, and preferred DNS server will fulfill the request of the client. He will give facebook.com means 1.2.3.4. This is the IP address. So this is how the resolution happens. Next time, if someone else is trying to browse facebook.com, then the query will go to the preferred DNS server. Now preferred DNS already know the entry of facebook.com is 1.2.3.4 because the previously it got to know from the alternate DNS server. Next time he will never send a query to the alternate DNS server. He will only just fulfill the answer. Okay, this is how the DNS resolution happens. Okay, in every interview they will ask you this question. They will ask, can you please explain how the DNS works, the resolution works? You have to tell, or they may ask you, can you please explain me what happens when I type www.microsoft.com or instagram.com in the browser and hit enter? You will tell, the website will open. Then he will ask, within that fraction of seconds, the hit, as soon as you hit the button, enter button, and the facebook.com or the domain opens, right? What happens in that milliseconds or the fraction of seconds? Then you have to explain this process. So as soon as I click www.microsoft.com if I type, or facebook.com if I type, there is a DNS query get initiated. The query will go and check the requirement for the local host file. In the local host file, if it is available, it will pick up the information and give it to us. If it is not available, then the query will go and check in the local client cache, the DNS cache. If the entry is not there in the host file and the DNS cache, then the query will be forwarded to the next preferred DNS server. Okay, in the preferred DNS server, the DNS will check whether the entry is there or not. If it is not there, it will forward the query to the alternate DNS server. If it is there, it will just give the resolution. If it is not there, it will forward the query to the alternate DNS server and it will try to understand it from the alternate DNS server, and then it will give the resolution. See, in this case I have only put 2 alternate DNS server. You can have n number of alternate DNS server also, but if you have multiple DNS server, the query will be keep on forwarding. Okay, I am asking you, you are asking your friend is asking his friend is asking his friend. Like that, the query can be forwarded. The query can be keep on occurring till it gets the result. This is how the DNS system, the DNS query getting resolved. Any question here in the slide? Okay. Now you know how the DNS query get resolves, but let us understand there are a couple of processes are there. Okay. So as soon as you type www.facebook.com, the query will be getting initiated. Okay, there are three types of queries will be happening there. So I told you, as soon as you type www.facebook.com, the query will go to the preferred DNS server. See, this is my preferred DNS server. Okay, the query will come here and DNS will check, yes, I can see a facebook.com entry, and it gives yes 1.2.3.4, and it will come back. So here the query is getting fulfilled at the first attempt only. Means I am asking you to give some address, and you are telling me, yes sir, I want to go to Jainagar. I will ask you. You will tell, you go to Majestic. From there you take metro and get down at Jainagar or Vijayanagar, where you want. So you are giving me the exact answer. So such kind of queries, we call it as iterative query. Means at the first ask itself, or at the first iteration itself, you are giving me the answer, or I am getting the required answer. That is called as iterative query. Sometimes what happens, I ask you, I want to go to Jainagar Maruti Mandir. How can you, do you help me? Then you will tell, I don't know, give me a second, let me check with my friend because he stays nearby Jainagar. Then you talk to your friend and you'll ask him, bro, I want to go to Jainagar. I'm in maybe Tumkur now. How can I go? So he will tell, you go to Majestic, from there you take a metro and go. So you will know how to go to Jainagar from your friend. Okay, and then you are telling to me. So here the query is forwarded to you, and you forwarded the query to your friend, the alternate DNS server, and with the help of him, you are understanding how to go to the Majestic, how to go to Jainagar, and you are telling to, I mean, your friend is telling to you and you are telling to me. This is called as recursive, because here the queries keep on occurring. I am asking you, you are asking your friend, correct na? And sometimes what happens, your friend also don't know, but he may ask his friend. So here the queries keep on forwarding, one person, another person, another person, another person. Okay, so if the queries keep on reoccurring, that is called as recursive query. That is called as recursive query. If the queries keep on reoccurring till it gets the result, that is called as recursive query. And if the query is getting fulfilled at the first attempt only, then that is called as iterative query. This is my alternate DNS server. Okay. So we have another type of query that is called as inverse query. So inverse query means that you are trying to browse something with the by using the IP address only. Okay, means if you are trying to resolve from IP address to host name, no matter whether the query is iterative or recursive, such query we call as inverse query. So if you are trying to browse directly with the help of the IP address, no matter whether the query is iterative or recursive, such kind of resolutions we call it as inverse query. Okay, so now you know how the DNS query gets fulfilled. Okay, and now you know how many types of queries we have. There are three queries: iterative, recursive, and inverse. Iterative means the DNS resolution happens at the preferred DNS server itself, at the first iteration itself. That is called as iterative. Recursive means the DNS query happens at the alternate DNS server. Okay, here the queries keep on reoccurring, and that is the reason we call it as recursive query. Okay, and the last one is inverse query. Inverse means no matter whether the query is iterative or recursive, if you are if you are trying to resolve by an IP address to host name, that is called as inverse query. Clear? Okay. Now there are two types of resolutions are there. Okay, one is forward lookup, another one is reverse lookup. So forward lookup means if you are trying to browse or if you are trying to resolve name to IP address, say for example NS lookup, you know the name now, the name of the computer, name of the website is facebook.com, and you want to resolve that to the IP address. So you have the name, you want to know the IP address, that is called as forward lookup. So NS lookup and type facebook.com. See, you know the name and you want to know the IP address. Such kind of resolutions resolving from name to IP address is called as forward lookup. So then what is reverse lookup? Reverse lookup is nothing but you know the IP address. See, you know this IP address. You want to know what is this name of the computer or the website. So now you are trying to understand the name by using the IP address. See, it got resolved to facebook.com. So this is called as reverse lookup. Very clear? 99.9% of the time we use forward lookup because we are human beings, we are very much comfortable using the names, and it is very difficult to remember the numbers for us, and that is the reason we always follow forward lookup. Then you may ask a question, sir, when will we use the reverse lookup? Say for example, there is an issue, application issues there, you are doing some troubleshooting, okay, and you are doing the trace route. Say for example, trace rt google.com or instagram.com, wait, facebook.com only, we'll see. Now you are trying to understand how the connectivity is going from my laptop to the facebook.com server. Okay, now it is telling me the, see, this is first one is my router, my house, my Wi-Fi router is 192.168.0.1. Then it is going and hitting my Reliance hub, means the Reliance, the Geo internet server. Okay, and this is all internet, Geo only, everything. Okay, it may go and reach some other point and you don't know what is that some other node, and you want to know what exactly the node is about. If that is the case, you can use what is, I mean, NS lookup and that IP address. See, you take this either IP address now. I'll show you. Let this get completed, or I can even open another parallel one. NS lookup. See, now you know what is this IP address is. It is reliance.reliance. See, this is something related to the geo network connection. So this is, you are able to understand with that, correct na? That is what the help of the, and I mean the resolution. Okay, so basically this is how the forward lookup and the reverse lookup will be done. Okay, now we understood what is forward lookup and what is reverse lookup. Okay, so there are three types of zones actually. Okay, so zones means these are the place where you create the records. Okay, so let me go to the DNS here. See, I am in the root domain controller now. Okay, let me log into the RDC01, log in as administrator. And open the DNS console. You go to the tools options here and you see there is an option called DNS. Click on the DNS thing. As soon as you click on the DNS, forward lookup zone, see, reverse lookup zone is here, forward lookup zone is here. Okay, and I have to go to my forward lookup zone, and here the entries will be there. Okay, say for example, you have created a website. Say for example, let me create a website, new host, Instagram. Okay, and the IP address is like 172.16.100.100. Okay, add host. Now you know the this IP address 172.16.100.100. I mean, you know the name of this domain called Instagram, and you want to see what is the IP address, how the resolution happens. See, ns lookup Instagram. As soon as you hit Instagram, this will come to this console here. The DNS will come to the here, and it will go to the Microsoft.com. Under that, it will check, is there any entry called Instagram? See, there is an entry called Instagram. And what is the IP address? 172.16.100.100. You see the same IP address, 172.16.100.100. And it is resolving to the IP address. Now, to make it more understanding, I will change the IP address now. 100.100 to, I'll make it 200. Apply and OK. Now, again, I will run the same command. Instagram. See, now it is resolving to 100.200. Means every time when you try to resolve a DNS or an entry, it will just come to this DNS console and look for the entry called Instagram.com. Yes, there is an entry called Instagram.com, and what is the IP address? 100.200. It will just take from this console and give you back. Now let me show you one more thing. Now you know the IP address, but you want to know the name. 172.16.100.200. Correct? Not the same IP address, 172.16.100.200. Now if I try to hit enter, it will tell you there is not, I mean, it is not found. See, request timed out. DNS request timed out. Why? Because there is no reverse lookup entry. If you go to the reverse lookup, see, there is no zones only. There is no zone only. Okay. What you have to do, you have to create a new zone. Right click on the reverse lookup zone, create a new zone. Next, it will ask you same primary zone, secondary zone, and stub zone. The same thing I was explaining it here. Primary zone, secondary zone, and stub zone. I will show you now why I am doing that. Okay. So these zones are nothing but these are the places where you can create the entries. Okay. Primary zone means you can create all the entries, you can update the record, delete the record. Secondary zones means it will have all the records, but it is only read only is there. But stub zone means you cannot create all the record, you can only create 3 records. One is name server record, okay, SOA record, and A record. Only 3 records can be created. I'll show you that. Okay, let me create a primary zone now. Next, IPv4, next. And what is the IP? 172.16.100. Correct, na? So next and finish. Now if you expand this primary zone, there is nothing. Okay, but what this is not correct. Now let me go here and right click on the Instagram.com, go to properties. There is an option called update the associated pointer record. I click this, apply, OK. Now if you come here and refresh, you will have the entry. See, the entry got created here, 172.16.100.100. Now if you type this one, ns lookup 172.16.100.200, you see 172.16.100.200 is there. Now it is searching with the numbers. What happens when you hit ns lookup 172.16.100.200? It will go to the DNS and it will go to the reverse lookup and look for the entry called 172.16.100. Yes, inside this zone, primary zone, it will look for this IP address 172.16.100.200. Yes, this IP address is there. Then what is the name of the machine or the website? It is called as Instagram.microsoft.com. This is how the resolution happens. Okay, And as soon as you create any record, say for example, you have domain joined recently, okay, say for example that PC is PC10, okay, and the IP address will be like, let me give the same IP range here, yeah, 192.168.190.25, okay. See, I said create associated pointer record, add host, and it says the associated pointer record cannot be created, probably because the reference to reverse lookup zone cannot be found. Means I have told to create a reverse lookup record for the PC10, which is 192.168.190, and if you come to this reverse lookup zone, you see there is no zone with the reference range. I have a range for 172.16.100, but my IP address is 192.168.190, correct? Huh? Both are different IP address. So what you have to do, you have to create a reverse lookup zone. Right click on the reverse lookup, new zone, and say next. Primary zone, yes. Next. And then see, you can put 192.168.190. See, here I am typing straightforward 192.168.190, but the reverse lookup entry, if you see here, it is coming the reverse order. 190 is coming first, 168 is coming next, and 192 is coming at the end. Means it is called as reverse lookup zone because this resolution happens in the reverse order. That is the reason as soon as I type 192.168.190, it is getting typed as 190.168.192. Okay, fine. Now I have the zone created. Now you can just refresh this. You will have an entry. I'll go again, Microsoft.com PC10. I'll go to properties and yeah, see, I'll just refresh and apply OK, so that it will come fast. See, now the entry came. Now you can verify just by clearing the screen. NS lookup PC10. See, since I have created the PC10 just now, PC10.microsoft.com, and it is resolving to same 192.168.190.25. Okay, this is how you create the record, and this is how you modify the record. See, if I now modify the record here, PC10 instead of 25, I'll make 125. Okay, let me refresh. See, PC10 is not 125, it is 125. Let me go and check the reverse lookup also and refresh it. See, in the reverse lookup also it got changed. 192.168.190.125 it has become. Now if you do the NS lookup again for the PC10, it will be 190.125. See, 192.168.190.125. So this is how the DNS. Okay, so you can create multiple zones here. Right click on the Microsoft.com here for forward lookup zone. You can create new zone. Okay, primary zone. Maybe you can put Insta, not Insta, Sony.com or Google.com. Okay, it will ask you the entry. See, Google.com created here. Okay, secondary means you can right click on here, right, new zone. Instead of primary zone, you can create the secondary zone like this. Zone name maybe Sony.com. Here you have to give the IP address. Okay, say for example 8.8.8. It is not a correct one, but let me just add that. But it will show red. It will not be green. See here, so Google.com is a AD integrated primary zone. Sony.com is a secondary zone. Okay, this is how you can create the zones. So now let me go back to the slide here, and I'll explain you what is primary, secondary, and sub zone. Okay, so primary zone, I told you, it is one of the zone in the DNS where you can create all the records, and it is an authoritative record. Authoritative zone means as soon as you ask something, this primary zone will respond back. If you type ns lookup PC10, you have seen now it is giving the IP address of the PC10 192.168.190.125. So it is an authoritative zone, means it has got the responsibility or authority of responding back to the user's query. That is called as authoritative. It can accept and reply back to the DNS query. Yes, it has accepted my NS lookup PC10 and it has responded with the IP address. Okay, and it has a read write permission. Earlier it was having 192.168.190.25 and I have modified the IP address to 125. So it is allowing me to do read and write operations, and it is a dynamic zone. As soon as I change the IP address, the same got reflected in the reverse lookup zone also. It is dynamically making the changes, I mean updating the changes everywhere. This is called as primary zone. So basically primary zones will have all the records. It is an authoritative zone, it is a dynamic zone. Okay, it will have AD integrated. That is about the primary zone. AD integrated means the the replication will happen along with Active Directory replication. Okay, I'll show you now. Let me go back to the console here. See here, sorry it got hung. Okay, let this gets refreshed. After that we can take that. Okay, so secondary zone means, so it is a copy of the primary DNS. It will also have all the records, but it is also an authoritative. Even it will respond back to the queries, but it will only have the read permissions. You cannot create any record, or you cannot modify any record, and it cannot be AD integrated. I'll show you that. If you are trying to create a record in the secondary zone, it will say no. It never give an option to create a record. It will never give an option to edit the record in the secondary zone. Then the stub zone, it is also a copy of the primary zone, but it will only have three records: A record, NS record, SOA record. A means it's a host record, means as soon as you create a computer entry, PC that I have created now, Instagram I have created, those records we call it as A records. Any computer and servers, if you are creating a record, that is called as A record. NS means name server, means if you have any DNS server, each DNS server will have a records created. Okay, records are nothing but the files. Now I have just created one record, PC10 I have created, correct now, and in what is Instagram I have created. Those entries only we call it as records. Okay, for the name servers, for the DNS servers, NS records will be created. And there is one more record called SOA. This is called as start of authority. So what does this record means? If you have n number of DNS servers in your estate, in our case we have two, one is RDC, another one is ADC, both are DNS servers only. So here I have created some records in RDC, and the same will be replicated to the ADC DNS, the alternate DNS. And how frequently that resolution happens, the replication happens, that is called as start of authority, means how frequently the information will get exchanged between the domain controller. The refresh interval is called as start of authority. Okay, it is, but it's a subzone is non-authoritative. It will only direct you to the right DNS server. Okay, it does not respond you back. Okay, it will only have, it will only guide you. Say if say for example, normally what happens, there are two kind of people will be there. When you ask for an address, some people will directly tell you, no, you take the bus in Majestic, there you go 100 meters. If you go to right left, there you have no metro station. Go to the metro station, take the ticket, get into the metro. Then after third stop, you will get Jayanagar or Vijayanagar. Like that, people will guide. But another type of peoples will be there. Okay, what they will do? They will only tell you from Majestic bus stand to how to go to the metro station. You do one thing, just go to the metro and from there you ask. Like that they will tell. So that is called a stub zone. Means they will only tell you to the right person whom to talk, or he may tell, I don't know sir, you please go and ask that person, auto wala. Okay, then you go and talk to the auto person, and auto person will guide you the how to go to the relevant location. That is called as stub zone. Stub zone means it does not tell you or help you to resolve exactly, but he will guide you who will be the right person to answer your query. He will redirect you to the right person. That is called as stub zone. Okay, any question? So I was talking about the records all this time. So there are 7 major types of records, in fact. Okay, the first one is A record. You already know A record or AA record means it is host record. Means for the computers, for the websites. Okay, you will create A records only. Okay, for IP version 4 it is A record. For IP version 6 it is AA record. Okay, if you are trying to resolve name to IP address, anything from name to IP address, that is called as A record. So we have this pointer record. Pointer record is nothing but it will be resolved from IP address to host name. That's why I went to the stub zone, DNS zone, and click on update the pointer record, that checkbox. Then that entry got created in the reverse lookup zone. So pointer record is nothing but PTR is nothing but pointer record. That is called as the reverse lookup record. NS record, the name server record. For the DNS servers, there will be automatically a record gets created as soon as you add the DNS. Okay, that is called as NS record. CNAME means it is canonical name or alias name. So you may have your friend. Maybe you will take an example. Okay, Dali alias Dhananjay. So Dhananjay has got a nickname or a C name called as Dali. Most of the people will only understand when you say Dali, correct? Now that is what this C name. C name means it is a canonical name or alias record. Why we create alias record? Sometimes what happens, see, Facebook will take over Instagram or Facebook will acquire Instagram, but Facebook don't want to continue the Instagram name. They want to change the name of the Instagram to something else. But it is very difficult at the same time to change everybody to use the new name. So what they will create? They will create a new name for this Instagram, maybe facebooknew.com. So when you type facebooknew.com, that time also the Instagram is opening, and if some people don't know what is the new name, they will still open the old name. That time also they are able to open the website. Okay, so let me put it in this way. Say for example, the IP address of the Instagram.com is this one, 192.168.1.100. So the old name is Instagram.com. New name is fbnew.com. So FBnew is the alias for the Instagram.com. When you type Instagram.com, that time the same IP is opening. When you browse fbn.com, also the same IP address browsing. So basically, you are having another name for Instagram.com. But even if you browse with the new name facebooknew.com also, that record is pointing to the same IP address and the same website is opening. I'll show you when this gets, after this slide, okay. MX record will be there next. SOA record is there, the same thing. SOA is nothing but it's start of authority. It is the DNS refresh interval. How frequently both the DNS servers should have the information exchange, the replication. Okay, that is called as SOA record. MX records are there. The exchange servers. If you have mail servers at your offices, exchange servers. Okay, or maybe Lotus Note servers. That time this MX records will be created for each Exchange server or mail server. And SRV records are there. If you have a specific service at your office, each and every services will have a record to define, yes, there is a particular service. Example, whenever you build any new laptop, it will ask for the license. You have to activate the license, correct? Huh? But if you are in a bigger organization where you have lakhs together of laptops, it is very difficult which is the laptop it is getting retired, what is the new laptop, and how many licenses you have. So there is a service called KLM, Key License Manager or Volume License Manager. Okay, the responsibility of the KLM is to, whenever there is a new computer gets come to the network, it will verify whether it is activated or not. If it is not activated, it will give the key and it will activate the license. So as soon as you create a new computer in the estate, that computer will understand the presence of the KLM with this SRV record. If there is an SRV, it is a broadcast package will be there. It will understand with the broadcast messages. Yes, there is a person called KLM. I can go and talk to him for the license. So basically, a record will represent the presence of the services in the network. Okay. So there are certain services called KLM, Telnet, SQL services, etc. Those are having the SRV record created. Okay. These are all the 7 major records you have in the DNS. So very, very important. And the last one is root hints. This is not for you, this is for the other L3s and L4, but let me give you some hints. Okay. So these are all called as the root hints. There are something called as root hints. Okay. Root hints are the servers in the internet that your DNS server can be used. Can use to resolve the queries from names that it does not know. Means you are working in the Microsoft.com, correct? Na? Our website has got only Microsoft.com now. But if you are trying to browse something else, say for example, consider now we have Facebook.com. Your domain name is Facebook.com, but you are trying to resolve Microsoft.com. So what happens? There is a person called top level domains. These are all the top level domains first, like this education.edu, .com, .gov, .org, .au. These are all called the top level domains. And this is called as root. This dot is this dot is called as root. So if you want to resolve something which is outside of your organization, okay, it is always the reverse order the resolution happens. Say for example, you want to browse something called computer1.sales.microsoft.com. This one. You want to browse computer1.sales.microsoft.com. You don't know the IP address of it. Okay. Then what it will do? The query will go to the dot. This is called as the root hints. As soon as you type computer1.sales.com, so it will go and ask, I know a person called dot. Hey dot, do you know a person called computer1.sales.microsoft.com? This dot will tell, I don't know who is computer1.sales.microsoft, but I have a person called com. Can you please check with him? Then the request will come to com. Then the query asks again com. Hey com, do you know who is this computer1.sales? That com will tell, I don't know who is the person called computer1.sales, but I have a person called Microsoft. Can you please check with him? Then again the query, hey Microsoft, do you know a person called computer1.sales? Then he will tell, I don't know who is computer, but I have a person called sales. You can ask this person called sales. Then the query again initiated, hey sales, do you know who is computer1? Then the sales will tell you, yes, I can see a person called computer1 in my organization. And what is the IP address of it? You can take this 192.168.1.200 example. So this is how the external websites are resolved. If you are trying to browse a website, government website, okay, then see the same thing. It will go to the dot first, then it will go to the gov, and then this the second level or third level domains, and then the resolution happens. Okay, this is how the root hints and the top level domains works. You should have some fair understanding how this happens. So these are some conditional forwarders and all is there. Some based on some conditions, the query will be keep on forwarding sometimes. Okay, that is called as forwarders are nothing but the bridge or the connectors between your office network and the internet world. So you are working in your office called facebook.com, but you want to browse something, some website called government website. That time there are some persons called forwarder, where they will be let me show you. So PASSWRD at the rate 123, if I log in, if you go to this Microsoft domain and go to properties, and you see here, not here, properties, and you see here forwarders. Here we will add the IP DNS, global DNS 8.8.8. This is the DNS of the Google. Like that we have global DNS. So what happens? The query will be checking inside, like if it is not Microsoft.com in our case, because ours is Microsoft.com, correct na? Our domain is Microsoft.com. If you see here, our domain is Microsoft.com. Anything apart from Microsoft.com domain, if you are browsing, it will directly take you to the forwarder here. It will tell I don't have any domain called Instagram.com with us. Then I will forward you to the forwarder. It is 8.8.8. This 8.8.8 will be sending that to this one dot. Then dot will send com. Then com will send to Instagram, and Instagram then will give the computer name. Okay, this is how the forwarders will be configured. And there are something called conditional forwarder here. If you see, conditional forwarder. So this is based on some conditions. Say for example, Instagram.com. If somebody browse Instagram.com, then you will add something called 1.2.3.4. That means you have created something called some conditional forwarder. If any user is browsing something called ending with Instagram.com, say for example, computer1.instagram.com, then don't search all these places. Straight away go and talk to this person called 1.2.3.4 for your resolution. So based on some condition, what is that some condition? The condition is, in your query, if you have something called Instagram.com, then you straight away go to this person and get the resolution done. That is called as conditional forwarder. Means based on some condition, the queries are directly forwarded to the respective DNS server. That is called as conditional forwarder. And there are some commands are there. The ns lookup, I already told you to check the resolution. Ns lookup, if this is not working, then it will give request timed out like this, timeout. If it is responding, you will get the information like this. And ipconfig display DNS is there. ipconfig flush DNS means if you want to flush the DNS cache, okay, that time you can do the flush DNS. So with that, I think we have covered the complete DNS, both theoretically as well as practically. Any questions? Let me stop the recording and then I can take the questions.